Okay, we now welcome Mr. Balazs Bucsay to the stage, who will be talking about SOCs over RDP, Citrix, Pentesting over jump boxes. Welcome, Balazs.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. As you could hear, I'm going to talk about RDP and Citrix and how to create a SOCs proxy over it. So maybe a little bit of exercise. If you used RDP, remote desktop, before, please show your hands. Yeah. Other hands if you used Citrix before. So it's definitely a talk for you guys. Yeah. So a little bit about me first before we start with the stuff. My name is Balazs Bucsay, or Bucsay Balazs in Hungary. If I go abroad, it's usually Balazs Bucsay or something different, but it's not my real name. But I got used to it since I live in London for so many years now. I have over 2 decades of IT security experience. I started quite early, and I'm working in research and consultancy for the past 15 years now. I had quite a few certifications like OSCE, OSCP, OSWP. These are on the slides, obviously. And previously, I hold CREST, CCT, and GPAN, which I didn't renew because I didn't need it. It might change nowadays. You can find me on Twitter under the handle XOR EIP, and on LinkedIn as well. Please just send a request if you want. You can connect with me. I'm happy to meet new people, even after the conference and on the conference. So please come to talk to me. I'm really happy to talk to you guys. I'm quite a frequent speaker in IT security conferences. I've been to many places before. I've been to Washington, D.C., Atlanta, Miami, Honolulu, in Europe, obviously in Hacktivity. This is my 6th time, I think, on Hacktivity out of 20. So I missed 14 different occasions where I could speak, I guess. But it's one of the best conferences I've ever been, to be fair. And I also visited the APAC region. I've been to Singapore. Last year I went to RootCon in Philippines as a speaker, and also been to Australia, which was great fun. So great news for you guys. This year, a few months ago, I started my own company, which is called Mantra Information Security. We provide all kinds of different services. We do a boutique consultancy approach. So it's quite a few different things that we do there, from cloud, source code, cloud reviews, CI/CD, Kubernetes reviews, to source code reviews, reverse engineering, so all kind of stuff. If you need something, feel free to reach out to us, and we might be able to help. I'm pretty confident we will be able to help. There is the website on the slide as well. Feel free to hit it up. You can find a contact to us, and also we are on LinkedIn and Twitter. So let's start with the stuff with SOCs over RDP or SOCs over Citrix. Basically, it's high level. It's an extension for the Windows RDP client, and you can install the extension, the plugin, and create a SOCs 5 proxy on your computer. This is the idea. So what it happens when you connect to RDP, you connect over TCP. And you have the TCP connection that is dedicated for your session. If you configured firewalls before, you know that you need to open that port, and that's the only thing that you need to use for RDP strictly. If you want to do some other stuff on TCP or UDP, you might need to reconfigure that firewall, which might be a pain, and it opens up an attack surface. So administrators don't do that, and it's against best practices as well. So I tried to work around that idea, and what I did, I created this plugin that helps you tunnel data over the RDP or Citrix connection that you have. It supports Windows 2000 Server 8 and Windows Vista SP1 and everything above that. So it's quite good. We are well behind those operating systems anyways. And it also supports Citrix and XenApp XenDesktop, which is quite a big thing. Development was sponsored by NCC Group. I worked with them previously for 6.5 years. They gave me some research time, and I spent quite a lot of my own time on this. So yeah, I had to mention that because obviously they sponsored the tool itself. A little bit technical stuff behind the tool, basically, or RDP. Basically, the RDP protocol is the same as the Citrix protocol, or it is really similar. So Microsoft just took the idea, took the protocol, and implemented it as RDP. When you do, so it has static and dynamic virtual channels. These are basically just virtual channels like TCP, let's say TCP connections inside the RDP connection. It's not TCP, oh, it is, but it doesn't really matter. So basically you have different data streams inside the TCP connection that you have to, that you use to initiate your RDP connection. If you copy paste stuff over RDP, that has its own dedicated virtual channel. If you type stuff into the RDP window, that has its own static virtual channel, and the same goes on with the audio stream, with the video stream, and so on. So there are quite a few channels that you have in the background, but you don't really see this because it's part of the implementation and you don't need to do anything with it. So prior RDP 6.1, you had only static virtual channels that were present from the point where you made the connection until you terminated the session. And then they introduced dynamic virtual channels just to make it easier for the developers to develop custom stuff. So these DVCs, dynamic virtual channels, needs to be initiated. Basically, you need to propose the channel from the client side that tell the server that you have this dynamic channel that you can use. And on the server, you need to, let's say, request a connection to that dynamic channel, and you can send arbitrary data over the channel. It's quite easy, at least it sounds easy, but it's not that hard to implement neither. So why did I come up with this, or how did I come up with this? Basically, I had quite a few jobs at NCC. I was doing more than 300 different engagements while I was there for more than 100 different clients. So you can imagine I've seen a few systems, including PCI environments, highly confidential environments, and so on. So those environments usually segregated from the network for a reason, and that reason, yeah, there is a good reason to do that. So the way how they segregate it, they use firewalls and other different technologies, and the only way into those environments, because somebody needs to administer them, right, is usually to have a jump box. The jump box is a dedicated computer that is connected to two networks. One is the PCI environment, or the highly confidential segregated environment. And the other one is not really the public network, but let's say the internal network of the company. So if there is an administrator who needs to do stuff on the PCI network or on the highly confidential network, they usually need to go to the jump box, connect to the jump box, and then they can reach the services inside the environment, which is great. It's good for security. It's an extra layer, security layer. It's an annoyance for the administrators, for everybody, but this is how we do security, unfortunately. If the jump box is a Unix box like Linux, you can just use SSH. And with SSH, you have the -d-d argument, which opens up a SOX proxy. So if you're a penetration tester like I am, you can use that to create a SOX proxy and proxy anything, tunnel everything through that proxy, which is really handy, and it's really, really old stuff. It's like 20 plus years old, nothing new about that. The issue with RDP and Citrix, that it didn't have that functionality, and it doesn't by default. So you always had to have a tool which created that tunnel for you, but it wasn't really ready. So I came up with the idea, what could I do with this? Because I was really annoyed by this. When I went to a client, I had to give a list to them that these are the tools that I'm going to use, but they didn't tell me what I need to test. So it's a really, really hard situation, because I can't tell you what I'm going to do if I don't know what I need to do, right? And they don't know what I need to do, so it never really worked out. They need to give me permission to install those tools, or they need to install those tools in advance, but usually they don't really like to install tools on the jump box, which I understand. So there had to be a solution to this. And I came up with this idea, which was partly already covered by RDP to TCP. So there was this guy, and I'm going to give you the history. History here. Basically, in 2007, there was this guy, Ahmed Toba, who created a plugin for RDP that was for transporting files. It was like a proof of concept. And a little bit later, 4 years later, RDP to TCP was created by Nicholas around 2011, I guess. It basically does the same purpose as I did, except it was only working for Linux at that time. And later it was integrated into FreeRDP in 2019. But by that time I created UDVC, which is a port forwarding tool. It works kind of the same as SOX over RDP. And in 2019-2020 release, I created the SOX over RDP and later the SOX over Citrix. So yeah, we had that functionality. The main difference between my implementation and the FreeRDP, RDP to TCP is that first of all, it works on Windows. Obviously, you can compile your own FreeRDP for Windows, but it might be not that easy as using my tool. And also, my stuff works with Citrix, which I think is quite unique. So how can you use this? Like I said, there is a server-side component and a client-side component. The way how you use this, there are the XE and the DLL. The DLL needs to go on your computer. You need to register it. It's pretty easy to do that. You need to have administrator rights. But if you are doing penetration testing or something similar, you are going to have administrator rights on your computers anyway, right? On the server, you need to execute the XE, the server component, which is quite easy. You just copy paste, and that's it. You don't need any special rights, permissions to do that. You just execute it, and it connects back. If you see that window, that alert window on your computer when you connect to the server, it means that the plugin is working. It is proposing that dynamic virtual channel to the server, and from the server you can connect back. The installation is really, really simple. It should be simple. Optionally, you can copy the DLL to System32 or sysval64. It depends on your architecture. Look up which one you need, but probably it's going to be System32, except for Citrix. Because Citrix is, I think it's still 32-bit, the client, so you need the 32-bit DLL for that. It's a little bit tricky, but we are going to solve it if you want. The point is, to install, you need to run that command rexserve32, and the DLL name is really easy. It just gives you that, okay, it was installed, and to uninstall it, you do the same command, but use the -u DLL, right? It's pretty simple. But you need to make sure that you use the right architecture version on the right box, because there are different varieties. If you want to configure it, by default, it's listening on localhost on port 1080, which I would say is secure. Nobody can connect to it except those people who can run code on your computer or have access to your computer. So if you don't reconfigure it, it's not going to open up a huge attack surface to you. So you can leave it open if you can leave it enabled if you want anytime. But you can disable it from registry. There is a key. You can change the IP if you want to make it available over the network. You can change the port or whatever. And I'm going to show you a demo in a second. I was quite lazy this time. I didn't take any chances. So I recorded the video. I really hope you can see this. Oops. Okay, so what I wanted to show you, this MacBook is a quite new one. It uses M2, which is ARM64, which is great for many stuff, but not really good for virtualization. So if you want to buy this one, think twice. I think it's a great machine. I work over these issues. But my point is I installed Windows 11 on this preview, which is a 64-bit running on ARM as well. And I created the ARM version of this plugin as well, so it's available for ARM64 as well. If you are using the same machine, if you install Windows on it, it's going to work. Okay, so it's ARM 64-bit, Windows 11, as you can see, it's working with that. And if I check clean the air filter, that's not in the video. I'm not sure what's that, but ignore it. So that's my IP. It starts with 64. Nothing special about that. I just want to show you that I can proxy tunnel over the network. It's not an issue. So we have quite a few binaries there. There is a DLL and the axes. And I'm going to start a PowerShell with administrator rights. I'm just going to double check whether it really has administrator rights. As you can see, there is a lot of lines, different privileges, so that's good. And I'm going to run the rexserve32 command and register the DLL. You can copy this to system32. You can just run it as it is. And it's really funny because I spent quite a few hours on this issue. On ARM64, if you register this DLL, you are going to get that error message. I think that's a Windows bug. I couldn't figure out why that it's showing that, but the thing is, it works anyway. So you just ignore that if you are using ARM64. So that's okay. So that's ARM, and now it's registered, so you can use it. If you use Microsoft Remote Desktop connection to connect to your computer over the network, then you get this alert box, like I said. So that's how you know that it's registered and it's running. It tells you where the SOX proxy listening is going to be on your client computer, on your Pentesting computer, on localhost 1080 by default. You can just ignore that. It's just giving you a little heads up information on the extra attack surface that you have there, and you connect to the server. I'm going to show you that the IP address of the server, it's an Azure cloud machine. It starts with 20 and ends with 22, so it's a totally different IP address that I had before. And now I need to copy the right executable to the server, which needs to match the server's architecture. So the laptop that I was using, I'm still using, is ARM64, but the server is x64. So I need to copy the x64 one. That creates a little bit of confusion between pen testers. So I'm just telling you, it's copied to the server. And now you don't really need to have a CMD shell for this. This is just for the show. I'm going to show you in verbose mode with the -v. So when I run it, then it started. And now on my client computer, I want to tunnel everything over the RDP, right? So what I'm going to do, first I show you that now that I connected back from the server, there is this port 1080, which is listening on localhost, so it's working. And if I check the PID, the process ID of that listener, it's going to be the MSC THC, which is the remote desktop connection application on your computer. So that's all matching up with the expectation, which is great. I'm going to get my IP. It's still the same, obviously, because I haven't set the proxy. So no surprises there. And if you try to set it in Edge, SOX proxy, you are going to fail, even though it says that, okay, it's working, it's set. It's not going to work. So you need to go old school. Go to Internet settings from Internet Explorer or from the settings. Like in the 80s, you go to LAN settings and you set it properly from there, or you can set it from a shell, doesn't matter. I'm just telling you that if you want to save a few hours struggling, then you can follow my method instead of trying around to do this with Edge. Yeah, so proxy is set, the whatsmyIPaddress.com is refreshed, and now, even though I'm on my on my client computer, the IP is totally different because everything is sent over the network over RDP, right? Again, you don't need to open up anything on the server. It just works over the RDP connection, which was the point. And since I'm running it in variables mode, and you shouldn't do this for production testing, let's say, because it scales back on the performance. I'm just showing you that all those IPs and connections are made from the client and proxied over from the client. I terminated the connection to the server, and if I want to refresh the page now, it's not going to work because the proxy is still set. So everything is sent over the proxy, but the proxy is not there anymore since I terminated the connection. Okay, so that was the demo. I hope you like it. And a few examples where you can use this tool. So if you are doing, it's all about jump boxes, right? And proxying. So if you are doing a web application testing over a jump box, then you can use this. You just use Burp or your favorite tool, and you set the SOX proxy in the settings. It's really easy. You can use it for internal infrastructure test or any kind of infrastructure test. If you haven't used proxy chain before, again, an old school tool, you should start experimenting with that. It's really, really cool. What it does, it hooks the process that you are running through proxy chain. It changes the connect method in the background. And instead of connecting to the IP that you specify with that command, it connects to the proxy, and over the proxy it connects to the server. So you don't really see the change, but what it does in the background is really clever and it's really awesome. You can use the proxy chains with Metasploit even, or any other tool basically. And since I released it, which was quite a few years ago, 2020, I got a few articles on the internet mentioning the tool. I got a few feedbacks from red teamers. They use it intensively. They are really happy with the tool. I'm really happy with them. And one of my good friends and ex-colleague, Tamás Jós, created the headless RDP called Aardwolf. You can automate things over RDP with this tool. It's really, really cool. And he implemented SOX over RDP in that as well. And also, if you are on his GitHub, check out the other tools that he created, because those are really something. He does a lot of red teaming. He created basically a red teaming tool which runs in a browser in WebAssembly. It's really, really cool. It's hard to explain, but it's really, really cool. So again, ARM64, it's relatively new. I mean, the release that I created for SOX over RDP or SOX over Citrix, you can grab that. You can find it on NCC's group GitHub. Like I said, they partly sponsored the tool. And I understand not everybody in offense, like I am, and some of you might care more about prevention, mitigation, and defense. So hands up if you're a defense guy. Not too many, but quite a few. Yeah, so these are important slides for you, I guess. If you want to prevent against this kind of attack, let's say, I wouldn't look at it as an attack. It's more like a tool that can be used. But anyways, that's my approach. But I understand that other people have different opinions about this. So what you can do, basically, for remote desktop, you can change the group policy. You can change the settings on the server. You can enable the do not allow clipboard redirection, and the same for drive redirection. If you do that, the tool is not going to work. Yeah, so that's a win for you. But in the same time, if you do that, the users won't be able to copy over files, and basically anything that is on the clipboard. Neither can they do drive redirection. So maybe that's not a big loss, but in many companies they do drive redirection. So from the user's computer, they redirect the drive so they can access the files from the laptop as well. So although it might be a win for you, it might be a loss for your clients or your employees. So be careful with this. I tried to replicate the same protection for Citrix. I spent quite a few hours on that as well. They have similar options, but somehow it doesn't work for that. So even if you turn off those features in Citrix, the tool is going to work. They might have changed that in the recent years, but it didn't seem like it. And the last resort that you can rely on is antivirus protection, basically. All bigger vendors classify this tool as malware, which is, I believe, unfortunate because it's only a tool and it doesn't do anything malicious at all. But again, that's only my opinion. So what they do, they classified it as malware. It's on the signature list, the signature database. So if you have a decent antivirus on your computer, on the server, then the attacker won't be able to copy the file over, or won't be able to use the file over. But obviously, it only applies on the releases that you get from GitHub, because the releases are compiled and public and it's on GitHub, so it's really easy to use. But if you want to work around the antivirus, I guess you can. So that was the presentation. I have a few stickers like this. It's pretty shiny, and business cards as well. So if you have a question, then you can have a card or a sticker. If you don't have a question right now because you are too shy to ask in front of an audience, which is fine, and you can find me in the corridors, or you can always email me. So, okay. Any questions? No stickers?
No questions this morning.
That's fine.
Thank you, Balazs. Thank you. Thanks
you.
for being at the Hacktivity conference again, and your wonderful presentation. So please show your gratitude.